My name is Chris Horgan. I'm Executive Director of Stewards of the Sequoia, with a on-the-ground volunteer organization in the Sequoia National Forest. We have 2,400 members who care deeply about the lands in the Sequoia National Forest. Stewards of the Sequoia is based out of Lake Isabella, California, with a population of about 16,000. Our award-winning Trail Appreciation Program has performed maintenance of over 1,900 miles of trail since 2004. We have formally adopted 9 trails and have a stewardship agreement with the Forest Service. Stewards volunteers have also planted hundreds of trees in order to help speed reforestation after the devastating McNally 150,000-acre wire. Stewards of the Sequoia mission is to promote responsible recreation and environmental stewardship, but those are not just words. We roll up our sleeves and put our time and sweat into the stewardship of the public lands we hold so dear. I'm here today to talk to you about 3 things: environment, the economy, and the public, and how they're affected by this bill. H.R. 1581, Wilderness and Roadless Release Act of 2011, fully embodies both recreation and stewardship. So this bill is something every reasonable person can heartily support by owning lands which decades ago were determined by the Forest Service and the BLM to be unsuitable for wilderness designation. These lands have a rich history of ranching, mining, timber harvesting, and recreation. Even without the reports, we can easily see they're unsuitable for wilderness, but look for yourselves. These pictures were all taken on the unsuitable lands proposed for release in the Sequoia National Forest. These lands contain cabins, roads, mines, cell towers, lookout towers, developed campgrounds, motorized trails, and even hazmat sites. There's no doubt these lands do not meet the criteria of untouched by the hand of man. These unsuitable lands have languished in many cases for over 20 years, awaiting release back to their intended uses. At that time, many of uses on these lands have been restricted as if they had actually been designated wilderness, but without congressional approval or authority. This bill is about sharing the land and embracing the environment. Under the Wilderness and Roadless Release Act, families would continue or again enjoy all forms of recreation on these lands, including camping, mountain biking, hunting, dirt bike riding, 4x4, hiking, and fishing. These unsuitable lands could once again benefit from active management as needed to promote forest health and prevent wildfires. These unsuitable lands could once again provide renewable resources and minerals, reduce dependency on foreign sources. These unsuitable lands could once again generate revenue instead of being a cost burden as they are now. These unsuitable lands from further consideration for the wilderness designation would not release them from management. These lands and all activities on them would still have to meet the strictest regulations in the world for multiple use lands, such as riparian regulations, habitat regulations, density regulations, erosion regulations, botanical regulations, seasonal regulations, water quality regulations, air quality regulations, threatened species regulations, Endangered Species Act, National Environmental Policy Act, National Historic Preservation Act, and more. Wilderness is not the only form of land management. Multiple use lands allow recreation and renewable resource harvesting only if they at a minimum meet all these regulations. So you see, more than enough adequate protections to ensure these unsuitable lands remain in excellent condition for future generations. With the passage of H.R. 1581, the U.S. Forest Service and the BLM would no longer have their hands tied and will be able to actively manage our public lands and promote forest health and reduce catastrophic wildfires. Should these unsuitable lands ever be designated as wilderness, there would be few, if any, places left for people to enjoy most forms of recreation. There's little doubt the communities around Lake Isabella would dry up, and there would no longer be enough population or business to support it. A good example of this was when the state of California recently restricted fishing on some segments of the country for a period of about 1 year. As a result of this restriction on fishing, the local Chamber of Commerce said that many businesses closed or came near to closing, and others complained of a drastic reduction in sales, which if continued would have forced them to close also. There are probably wilderness advocates who will demand that these lands, which are clearly unsuitable for wilderness, continue to be studied, reviewed, and held in limbo until they can somehow find someone that is willing to ignore the facts and find them suitable. These public lands have languished in limbo for too long. I encourage this Congress to fulfill their promise and release these unsuitable lands. This bill is good for the environment, good for the economy, and good for the public. And I have here with me today over 3,000 letters that were submitted by the public in support of H.R. 1581, and these are just a small portion of letters which have been submitted. I'll give this to the clerk. Thank you for your time. Thank you.